Good morning. It is Tuesday, and that means it's time for Tip Tuesday. I'm Katie Sevenants. Welcome to Business by Design Online. We are here to help you pivot in business, whether it's a small pivot or a big pivot, or now you have kids at home, whatever the case is. We are here to share some tips so that you can be successful running your own empire. Today, my guest is Misty Cogdill, and we met over the phone as a referral from another guest who said, "Oh my gosh, you have to interview Misty. She is amazing." And every time I talk with her, I get full of energy because Misty is someone who is so passionate about what she does, and I know you're going to love learning more from her. So let me bring Misty up. Misty has been studying handwriting for over 9 years, and not just handwriting analysis and here's who you are and this is who you've been, but you take it deeper than that, Misty. I love it. So would you share with us a little bit about why you found handwriting so important in your life and what you've done with it? Because I know you said you've been through some changes once you really understood and you could make those changes.
Yes, thank you. And I'm honored to be here. So I'm grateful that I have had this opportunity to be interviewed with you and by you. So my journey began, I was born as Misty Ann Cogdill, knew myself, was very bubbly. And like a lot of women, we get married and we change our last name. And within a year, I had noticed that I was dramatically different. And I didn't understand why. Everybody, my family had noticed it, friends, and I couldn't tell you the answers. I didn't have the answers. I just knew that my personality had changed. And I was like, is this what marriage does to you? It changes you? I'm like, I didn't get a rule book, you know? So anyways, after 6 years of marriage, it didn't work out, and I had went back to my maiden name and had found my old self again. And I was like, wait a minute, I had the wool pulled over my eyes. Something happened. I need to go back and figure out what it was. And I figured out it was handwriting. So your handwriting is a graphic representation of your thought patterns. And when you change your signature, you change your thought patterns, which changes your DNA and kind of like how you think, how you operate. And I became fascinated with it. I was like, oh my gosh, like, does this happen for everybody? And I started asking all kinds of women, and everybody was like, yeah, I changed too, but I thought it was because of the baby or because of the move or because of the job change. Like, nobody ever put it back to changing their signature, but I put the pieces of the puzzle together, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I need to learn more. And I was just fascinated by it. And, we have certain limits and blocks in our handwriting. I was able to see that. And then when I would share it with people, and then they would start getting, their lives started changing because of changing their handwriting. It takes typically 3 months for the neurological patterns in the brain to shift. Then I was just like so lit up. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this makes such a difference. And I'm like, I need to tell more people, and I need to, share it. And I was in real estate for 8 years, and I was always sharing with my customers about their handwriting when they were writing.
And I'm sure you saw a lot of handwriting doing that.
And so I would share with them tips on the handwriting when, they're signing contracts and whatnot. And then they're just kind of, I'm like, we're not talking real estate, we're talking handwriting. So it's just a passion of mine that I get lit up and excited because I know the difference that it makes. I've watched it transform people's lives. I watched it change my own life, and I'm just excited. Like a kid on Christmas morning, I can't wait to see what opens up for my clients. So
I love it. And you've been doing coaching. You've been a coach for quite a while prior to really focusing on handwriting, haven't you?
Yes. I work with Thinking into Results, the Bob Proctor program. So I facilitate that program as well. But my main passion is the handwriting. And I have a site and a course that people can go through. So it's been a lot of fun. And my clients have been getting amazing results.
I love it. Chris Dyer, I saw a post from you guys just last weekend that you guys met in person.
Yes.
And we were just talking, I saw your pictures where you jumped out of an airplane here in Colorado. I've done that twice in one day up in Seattle, but you're like living this awesome life right now. I love it. Tell everybody what you're doing right now.
So I am traveling across country in an RV. And I had a friend do it, 7 years ago with her husband. And I was like, okay, well, I was waiting for like Mr. Right or whatever. And then finally got tired of it. I'm like, I'm just going to go do it by myself. I'm like, why not? Let's empower other women to go live their best lives too. And show that we can stand on our own and we can do things, on our own. And I've been meeting so many amazing people, and I'm in Colorado right now. We're going to Texas next, and just traveling the United States for a year in an RV, sharing my passion about handwriting, trying to empower as many women, children, and men, and like everybody as much as possible. So
I love it. And I love that you are very focused on, your goal is helping empower women, helping them see some of the things they can take control of. And that's what we're all about. It's all about just that shift in helping women see, oh my gosh, you are capable, you are amazing, and you've got this. So I love what you're doing, Misty. Tell us a little bit about how you found handwriting to change your life, not just realizing your personality shifted, but what have you found it to do to change your life?
So I always love sharing, and I've even had clients reach back out and say, I know you told me to cross my T's on top. So always, no matter what, if the number one advice I give you that you take away from this is always cross your T's on top and don't have any loops in them. My grandmother, Grandma Betty, had loops in her T's, and she was abused as a child. So her abuse showed up in her handwriting. Well, I, as her granddaughter, was around her. I actually took on those thought patterns, even though I didn't experience the abuse. So I took on the generational patterns. So that's part of my mission statement is, you can clear generational patterns and move into your authentic self. So when you don't don't have loops in your T's, but always, whether it's a capital word or at the beginning of a word or the middle of the word, cross your T's on top, because it's all about awareness. It's the letter of your willpower. It's the letter that will help you with your decision making. I mean, I cannot share enough. Make your T's as tall as possible and as big as possible, because it really supports your decision making and your willpower.
I love that. So I have a T, Katie. I have a T in there. And when I write Katie, I cross it. But sometimes when I'm writing words, I don't even cross the T. So that's very good. Like that,
yes.
Just doing that could make me more.
It'll bring more awareness, and it'll bring more insights. Just in general, you're gonna see kind of certain patterns that you have, certain things that you do, and you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't have to do it, because you can see it. And then you're like, that doesn't make any sense. So the analogy that I give in my program is like you're standing on top of a mountain overlooking a valley. If I told you to go across town, it's really easy. You're like, yeah, just go straight, make a left at the light, and then turn right at the stop sign, keep going, and you're out of town. No big deal, right? If you didn't have a GPS and you've never been in that city before, and I told you go down in town and now figure it out without a mountaintop view, without having that before, you'd be like, okay, well, let's go over here. Okay, let's try this over here. Like, it would take a lot longer. So I always share with everybody, I'm like, when you cross your T's on top, it really is giving you a mountaintop view of life. And then you're able to make those decisions based on what you see, because you're like, well, that decision isn't in alignment with my goal, so I'm not going to make that decision. But if you can't see it, you might get distracted and sidetracked and go off in another direction, and then all of a sudden it takes you 5 years to get back on track again.
I love it. That's cool. Okay, before we go on to your next tip, what is the thought process behind handwriting? Is there like history to show? What is it that really grabbed your attention so that you're like, okay, these are the things I know we need to do?
Yes. So there's a lot of science and research. If you actually look at the great thought leaders today, like Albert Einstein, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, Nikola Tesla, Mother Teresa, like all of these great thought leaders, like how did they get there? And I was driven by how did Mother Teresa get to who she was? And I always had a joke because my mom's name is Teresa. So I said I have my own Mother Teresa. But I was always fascinated by like, how did they get there? Well, their handwriting, there's samples of all of their handwriting out there. And then you start to see the common denominators between all of them. And then you're like, okay, so it's a map on paper of their thinking. So let's start incorporating that map now in our mindset and let it, so it's like a stencil for your thinking. And then I've had people literally, they're like, okay, they're out of their comfort zone because of how they think right now. And then all of a sudden they're writing like this, but it takes 3 months at a minimum for the neurological patterns in your brain to shift. And then once you start writing in this most beneficial way, the most beneficial way to write each letter based on how all these great thought leaders wrote, then all of a sudden you're going to start getting different results. You're going to start thinking more like them, and it's going to pull you in a direction that has you be your highest and best self, and you're constantly being pulled in that direction.
That's so fascinating. I've never spent a whole lot of time researching or paying much attention to it, but I'm writing.
I didn't either.
I'm writing a lot of notes. So that's cool. Okay. So what's your next tip for us?
So my next tip is I have a client who, and this is another one of my favorite stories is my client Andy had actually several, he's done personal development, has great results. He's an amazing person, but he said that he always felt like he had a ceiling and he just could not break that ceiling. And then I looked at his handwriting, and one of the things that I said is, well, you write the big bubble A. I was like, that is ego driven instead of, soul driven. And I said, you need to write the star A. And so all of a sudden he was like, okay. So he started the program, started doing the work. And then all of a sudden his results, he called me up. He's like, I did $45,000 in sales today or whatever. And then the next day it was like 55,000. He's just getting these amazing results that he's never gotten before. And he's like, is this stuff magic? I said, no, it's science. And he's like, this is awesome, and so he's like, I finally broke that ceiling. And I said, well, the block was in your handwriting. We removed the block, and then, he's been a client for 6 months, so it didn't happen overnight, but he stuck with it. So I always say it's like planting a seed in the ground. You plant a seed like a pumpkin seed, you put that seed in the ground, you start watering it, and in 2 days, you're not like, hey, is there anything happening? You just trust, and you just keep watering it. Eventually you get the little plant, and then by the end of summer, you actually might get a pumpkin, and then it's like, once you get that pumpkin, then you're like, hey, these are the results after 6 months. Well, handwriting, with changing your handwriting, it takes a while for it to go into the subconscious mind and then really start to shift. But you're going to notice your mindset, your paradigm now versus the way you're going to start writing. It's kind of like your subconscious mind will be like, hey, we don't write like that. And you're like, yes, I do. And you have to do it on a conscious level. Yeah. And as you do it consciously, people are like, how come I'm having a hard time with this letter? I just cannot get it the way you're recommending it. And I'm like, that's because your subconscious mind is resisting it and you're fighting it. So you have to consciously battle, all of the paradigm within, and then shift it and transform it through a conscious effort of your handwriting, and specifically looking, it's like a stencil for your thinking, and every little detail. I always say it's as detailed as golfing. You shift your golf swing a little bit, it makes a world of difference where that ball lands. Handwriting is just as detailed.
Okay, so a bubble A. My maiden name was Ansel. Started with an A, and I can remember for years writing a circle like the A, yeah. So
that's
star A is just the loop at the top, kind of, and then.
So the star A looks more like a star, but the way we were taught in grade school, almost all of it was limiting. And I realized that, and I was like, now they're not teaching handwriting in school. And a lot of people are like, that's not good. And I'm like, no, that's great. That's fabulous. That means they're not teaching it wrong. I'd rather have them not teach it at all than teach it wrong and have people go down the wrong direction. I said, so my job now is I want to get it out to all the school systems and be like, look, this is going to support our kids with a solid foundation for life. They don't have to deal with all of the stuff that we had to deal with.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, okay. It's super exciting. Okay.
I just got an idea. Maybe after this video, you've talked about a T and you've talked about an A. Those are two big ones, I know. Yep. Maybe you could post a picture under, in the comments after the video of what a good A looks like and what a bad A looks like and what a good T, just so we know. Because, I'll try anything. So I'm ready to shift a few things. All right. So what is your last tip for us today?
So my last tip for you guys is with the letter Z. So I'm not a doctor and I'm not prescribing any medication. So I want to make that perfectly clear. But I have several people that I know that was on anxiety medication. And I was like, oh, just write the letter Z, and it looks like a number 3 with a loop at the bottom. And then I was like, people started writing the Z and then all of a sudden their anxiety was gone. And then they're like, what happened? And I said, your body is reflecting your thought patterns. And I'm telling you how to write your thought patterns, so write like zebra and zoo and write words that start with that letter. And then their anxiety, then they were like, I don't want to be on the medication anymore. And I'm like, that's awesome. And I'm like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not prescribing anything. I'm just giving some tips. But I've noticed the cause and effect with several people. And I said, instead of prescribing medication, maybe we can work the mindset a little bit and be able to make that difference.
I think it's so interesting. Everyone seems to be so ready to go out and get medication for everything. But if there are options that are, non-invasive, that are things that we can control, things that are in our own power to take care of and shift and change, how awesome. Why not? Let's try it. Let's see what we can accomplish. If I can do it with handwriting, I promise I will practice my handwriting over and over and over until I get it right. So that's really awesome. So we have a T, we have an A, and we have a Z. And I almost wrote a Z the wrong way. All right. There we go. I just got my Z.
There's a way that serves and there's a way that doesn't. And the way we were taught in grade school doesn't serve us. And I'm like, well, we've been programmed since we were 5. And then everyone feels like when they're in my course, they're like, I feel like I'm going back to grade school. And I'm like, well, that's where it started, so we got to go back that far. And then my program, I've got 4 weeks in there that talk about the power of questions. Because if you think about it, children are always asking questions and nobody ever taught them how, so the mindset is actually the process of asking and searching for answers to questions. So you just got to be aware of the questions that you're asking, because with the right questions are going to come, a lot better answers and a lot better results. So I actually do 4 weeks on that as well in my program.
That's interesting you say that, and I want to talk about what you're doing. But I recently attended a coaching program, and she talked about your affirmations, putting them in a form of a question rather than a statement. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. It really, you can feel that you're like, your brain is trying to find the answer and figure it out. So I think that is an awesome thing. So you have a coaching program, a couple. Yes. I know you have a Facebook page. Tell us, if people want to get to know you or learn a little bit more about how they might be able to make some changes in their handwriting for success in their life, how can they get a hold of you, and what ways can they connect with you?
Yeah, thank you. So I have a website that just went live. So it's handwriting-soul-academy.com. And then I also have a Facebook group that's public. So that's facebook.com/groups/handwriting-soul-academy. So they could join that group as well. And then I have a webinar that's 30 minutes of free information, more about handwriting. So I could post that link as well so people can watch the webinar. And then at the bottom of my page, I have a book coming out called Handwriting Can Heal Your Life. Or you can heal your life with handwriting. And the book is out to be published, and it should be done you should be able to order it hopefully by this fall.
That is so exciting. You were doing so many cool things. I'm sure that's never what you thought when you first were like, oh my gosh, I changed my name back and now I'm back to my normal self.
I didn't realize the depth and the everything that would come with it. And I mean, I had no idea. So I just kept studying as a passion of mine on my own. I was fascinated by it and I couldn't get enough. And then I would talk to people and I would share all kinds of stuff. And then sometimes they wouldn't shift. And then I'm like, and then other times they would shift, but it's like they've got to stick with it. If they don't stick with it and continue, they're not going to get the results. So it's about the action and specific action that I tell you to take. And then I'm your accountability partner for 3 months. I have you send me samples of your handwriting every day. And that's what really starts to shift the paradigm and the mind.
I love it. I know Beanie's been commenting. It's a great package, mind blowing. She was our guest a month ago.
Beanie's fabulous.
So it's pretty cool to be able to hear from someone who's been in your workshop. And I've watched some of your posts on the Facebook group, and it's really cool. Like, you, by looking at people's handwriting, can make, suggestions on things they can do differently, and the shifts and the comments from people. It's pretty awesome. I'm going to be checking it out. So my dog, I have a Great Dane who is chasing a fly in my office right now. So she's going a little crazy. Anyway, Misty, you are so passionate. You are so full of knowledge on being able to help people. I love it. I mean, it comes through in everything you're doing. I can see how passionate you are about empowering people to do something different. And
yeah, it just makes such a difference. I love it.
oh, that's awesome. I would love it if you can post some of your links in the comments here so that people can connect with you. And, yep. It's a very interesting look at something we can do ourselves. And it's pretty cool. Instead of just getting your handwriting analysis done, but to actually learn how to shift your mindset
yes.
for success. I'm ready for that. I'm always open for that. So
I know handwriting analysis is great because you see where you're at, but I'm like, well, if you don't like your results, then let's not look at where you're at. Let's show you where you can go.
Yeah, I like that. That's an awesome way to look at things. So
yes.
And now that we're homeschooling kids more than ever, we could teach them too, that we don't have to teach them a certain way to write letters. Let them kind of do it on their own. Is that more, or we give them the best guidelines so they can write it the right way?
Yeah, I have a children's book that I'm working on. It's about halfway done. So hopefully I'll have that done soon as well, and then can go out there to all the schools and try and empower to make that difference.
I love it. That's really cool. I mean, all our education, I know a little shift here and there might benefit the whole education system. So yes. It's awesome to be able to chat with you. I know you have big adventures. I hope you will stay in touch with us so that we can see what you're doing and where you are, and follow your progress. So thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad I got a chance to get to know you a little bit, and I might have to send you some of my handwriting and see what you say.
Thank you. It was an honor to be on your show, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to meet you and to share my story.
Awesome. All right. Well, have fun on your way to Texas soon.
I will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for